Hey, it's Coach Edwards, lacrossegoalietips.com and lacrossegoalieuniversity.com, and I just got an email from China, which I think is really cool. I'm getting a little bit of a following in China, which I think is just wicked. So first goalie that wrote me from China couldn't read the blog, which I thought was pretty interesting. The blog was actually censored. Why? I have no idea. I am sharing some crazy tips that aren't allowed in China, I guess. So look out. But he found me on the podcast. So if you head on over to iTunes and you search for lacrossegoalietips.com, I basically take every video here, I strip out the audio, I make a podcast, and you'll see that growing over the next weeks and months. Again, this is a labor of love for me, right? This drives my wife nuts. I spend so much time doing this, but I really enjoy dealing with lacrosse goalies all over the world. So if you've got a question, feel free to email them to me. But this one comes from Patrick, and I always wonder if that's their real name or if it's just a myth. So anyway, I'm a goalie who started playing lacrosse in Hong Kong since my first year in college. I started being an attacker and became a goalie last summer. I'm now having my last inter-hall game inside my college at the University of Hong Kong, an HK Lacrosse League. First of all, really thank you for the newsletter. I read them every day and I benefited a lot. However, I have a problem that I would like to ask. During the game, my vision was always blocked by both attackers and defenders, or distracted, so that I could not react to the shot properly. I told my defenders not to block my sight all the time, but they always did that during critical moments. What should I do to improve this? Thank you for answering my questions. From Patrick. Patrick, great question, and not uncommon. Okay, first and foremost, lacrosse is a team sport. There's a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of stuff happening out in front of the cage. And you got to remember this, especially if you're not in a program where everybody has been playing lacrosse for a really long time, there's a lot of learning going on, right? And there's a lot of stress. And I always relate, every athlete is like a pitcher of water, a glass of water, on the field, right? So if you could imagine this, right? So let's say there's here's your defender, and they're a glass of water, all right? So they're new. So there's a little bit of water there. They're maybe not that athletic. There's more water in there. They haven't played lacrosse very much before. And now the player they're up against over here with the ball is really good. So the water's at the top and they're overflowing. The last thing they can figure out they want to think about is getting in your way. That's just like one more thing they got to deal with. You may have a defender over here who is really good athletically, so that's not a problem to them. They've got good stick skills, not a problem for them. The player that they're up against, they can handle, no big deal. Oh, you've told them that they're screening you? Hey, not a problem. A little bit of stress, but they're not overflowing, so they're good. So this defender over here, he's like overwhelmed mentally. So this is where, from a goalie's perspective, from a lacrosse goalie's perspective, is you've really got to, it's part of the game. They're going to be in your way. Now, a couple things that I tell defensemen. Don't worry about stopping the ball, all right? Don't worry about stopping the ball. All we want them to worry about is we want them to worry about their man. So here's the offensive player with the ball. So we want them to basically keep their player. We want their player to pass the ball. That's basically it. We don't want the player to dodge. We don't want them to get a shot off if they can. But so we basically, the defenseman's responsibility is to keep the player from getting around them. All right. Notice I didn't say the responsibility of the defenseman in lacrosse is to take the ball away. All right. A lot of defensemen think that that's the responsibility, and that gets them into trouble. So there's a time and the place when we teach defenders how to strip the lacrosse ball, but for the most part, we're not worried about it. We just want them to contain the guy with the ball and make a pass, right? So that's rule number one. Rule number two is if they're not covering the ball carrier, so here's my other glass of water. If his player doesn't have the ball, is we want them to come into position to be able to help. So that's the two main responsibilities for the defender. One, covering the ball carrier, and two, being in a position to help if the person covering the ball carrier gets beaten. That's it. Defender's responsibility is not to stop the ball or to try to catch the ball in midair. So if the shot's taken from the outside, we don't want anybody trying to get in that way. So depending on how your coach teaches their defensemen, depending on where the ball is on the field, your defender needs to be in a good position. Now, if an attackman, so let's say here's the offensive player with the ball, and here's your defender, all right? And this player it comes down the alley like this, and there's an attackman here and a defender, and this attackman runs across the crease, and your defenseman goes with him right as this ball gets shot. That's just part of the play, all right? Your defender has to stay with his man, you know, and that's it. If your defender is standing, though, for some reason between you and the ball, then just say, hey, if that defender should actually be playing between his attackman and the ball carrier, right? So what I teach my defensemen to do is basically take that 6-foot stick, right? That big 6-foot stick, and use it like a tentacle on a lobster, right? They're gonna feel, they can touch, they can touch the attackman. The ref usually doesn't call that. You just want to get some sort of feel around there. So the defender is basically touching the attackman, but getting ready to slide. And then that should be fine. So get to a position where you can talk to your defenders. Don't get angry at them. Just go, hey, I couldn't really see that. Now, from your perspective as a lacrosse goalie, when we are in our stance, there's certain things that we're going to have to do to either look up. I don't know how tall you are, but you're going to have to look around. You know, so if let's say this is the right post, right, and I'm a righty goalie, and here's my stick. So I may look around my defender to see where that shot's coming. I may compromise my stance just a little bit. But other than that, you know, you're going to be doing a lot of this, making sure you can see the ball, and also knowing when the shooter is like in a shooting stance or if he's just kind of moving around the top of the crease. Okay. So, but Patrick, it's a process, but keep in mind that idea of the glass of water. All right. You're in there. You're your own glass of water. You're worried about that shot. You're trying to figure all that stuff out. You're trying to tell everybody where to go. And that glass of water is getting full and full and full. As you get more confident and more comfortable, is that stress level goes down, and you can start to manage more things, right? We take a young goalie, put them in the cage. They can barely hold their stick, right? So let alone try to catch a ball that's now moving at them at high speeds. So it varies. So just keep that in mind. So coaches and parents watching this too, you know, that lacrosse, that glass of water analogy that I use, man, it's so, when you start to kind of do that, it's so fitting. You'll have players in the field that are no problem, low stress. You have other athletes who are just learning, they're high stress, and they're trying to figure that all out. So think think generously, I guess, think easy, be easy on your players, and keep that in mind, and all should be good. So if you got a question for me, feel free to email me at coachedwards@lacrossegoalietips.com. Leave a comment below. Do me a favor, Facebook this, like it, share it, tweet it. All that stuff helps us out, and really appreciate your help. And like I said, it's a labor of love for me. So thanks for being a part of it, and I'll talk to you real soon. Cheers.